My dad is dead.
Damn.
And you know me pretty well now. I deflect often with humor. So I'm constantly making jokes about my dead dad.
When there's a person who like holds so many memories of you and you hold memories of them and then they're gone, it makes you feel less tethered to life. Almost like, whoa, I'm less real.
Yes. He was right. He was going to die. I felt like he just knew on like a level that I couldn't have possibly known.
Hello there. You're listening to Catharsis Sessions. I'm Dashiell Wolf. The methodology we're going to be using today is Catharsis Method. It's our philosophy and framework for healthy emotional processing designed into a deck of cards. You'll see those on the table as we go through. And my guest today is Carly, or as the internet knows her, uncertainly Carly. I'm lucky to call this person one of my close friends. As brilliant as she is irreverent, as hilarious as she is stunning, Carly is a writer and content creator who explores topics of midlife transitions, like leaving your faith, navigating divorce, returning to the dating world, and parenting teens. But today, the subject Carly has chosen to explore with me is a deep grief, one that we will all face at some point. It is the death of a parent. So sit back and relax as a fly on the wall for today's session, because what follows is vulnerable and profound. Thanks for sitting down with me, Carly.
Thank you.
And coming
Thank
to
you.
have a conversation about Catharsis Method. I've been excited for this because, how did you word it the other night? That you feel like you can't label emotions?
Oh, I was saying okay, there's this word that I learned, or there's this term that I learned. I can't remember how to pronounce it, but it's like alexithymia or alexithymia. Okay, it was like basically like self-diagnosis of.
You took a BuzzFeed quiz.
Exactly. Multiple of them. BuzzFeed, all the feeds, all the quizzes. Basically, you have a hard time processing, labeling, and identifying your emotions.
Okay.
And at first, I thought it was like because I'm maybe avoidantly attached because of my upbringing. I was like, oh, well, maybe it's because I have ADHD. Maybe this is like a spectrum thing. But I really related to the questions in the quiz because of what they were asking. It was like, do you, and I can't remember exactly what all the questions were, but it was just like, can you feel or identify like emotions in your body? And I was like, no, it feels like there's like a separation, right?
Yeah.
Between like my brain and my body. I'm constantly just intellectualizing all of my feelings instead of like just sitting with them and, trying to like label what I'm feeling, the sensations in my body, and trying to like attach them to like a certain emotion.
Yeah. Okay. That makes more sense because you're one of the smartest people I know.
Oh,
and so when you said that, I was like, that's like that. That's kind of surprising. But if you're talking about kind of more of like a bodily sensation and tying that to emotions,
yes,
I think that's probably something a lot of people feel, including myself. I feel very detached from my own body. But that's interesting. Once we get into it, I'll point out kind of a thing. But when I was designing this, I didn't really know where to start on identifying emotions because some people feel it in their body first to go, oh, I'm feeling sadness. But some people are very much just in their head.
I'm very much in my head all the time.
And so I wasn't sure which things to identify first in kind of going through emotions. But let's go ahead and dive into it. Do you mind telling us what the situation is that you've chosen to process for this session?
My dad is dead. And you know me pretty well now. I deflect often with humor. So I'm constantly making jokes about my dead dad, mostly because I just like to shock people.
Yeah.
I just like to get that reaction out of people. But then it's also, like I said, a deflection. I don't actually have to like think too deeply about it if I'm talking about it or if the subject is brought up. So my dad died 3 years ago, complications of cancer. It was stroke related to cancer. And he has 11 kids. So I'm one of 11 siblings. I'm one of the oldest. And I was also the one that was primarily taking care of him, like towards the end of his life. I lived close to him. I would go over there every day, and like he was going through chemo, so I would make him food. I would take care of him. I would drive him to appointments, chemo appointments, all of that. So we didn't have like the best relationship growing up, but I felt like we grew a lot closer towards the end of his life. And then like he died so suddenly. Like, yes, he had cancer, and yes, I knew that he was essentially terminal, but because it was a stroke, it happened much sooner than we all anticipated. So I chose that just, because, I'm at the age where a lot of my friends, their parents are dying, and I feel like it's relatable, and I'm not quite sure if I've processed his death entirely. So I thought that would be an interesting subject to talk about.
Yeah. And also, it's okay if it's not relatable.
No. Okay.
This can be your experience.
That's right. Thank you.
It's totally unique to you.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, because this is your first time using the cards, I'll just explain a couple things a little bit more in depth. But there are essentially two halves to the exercise.
Okay.
There's awareness, and then there is management.
Okay.
And awareness is more about us just making space for your feelings and diving into those, being honest, not judging, not censoring, not feeling embarrassed, none of that. Like, all of it's good. And then once we move into management, well, then we can start to challenge certain things, take a second look. Okay. But this first one is mostly just for feeling and kind of looking at our emotions a little bit deeper. So I'll read this really quick. Awareness is gathering the pieces of our experience, how we feel and what we think, and then assembling that data into a blueprint that will later guide our management. Honesty and non-judgment are key. Be present and don't create answers to these questions. Instead, only acknowledge the answers that are already there.
Okay.
All right. So the three pillars, there are three pillars for each of these. The three pillars of awareness are observation, empathy, and intuition. The way that I like to think about that is if you were looking up at the night sky at the stars, observation is kind of like just pointing out where the different stars are, plotting the data initially. Empathy is connecting cause and effect, and so it's like connecting the dots up in the night sky. And then intuition is kind of seeing the constellation, the bigger picture. It's seeing the picture, Orion's belt or whatever the hell. And so those are the kind of things those are the pillars of awareness. So what we are going to do, now that you've detailed the situation that we are going to process, we're going to make a little bit of a grid. And the grid is going to function with these 5 columns. And then we're going to make 3 rows for the emotions that you feel most.
Okay.
And so while emotions don't always proceed perfectly chronological like this, what this represents is kind of like emotions are stimulated or triggered, which makes us feel an initial appraisal or our thoughts, which then motivates the emotion. And every emotion has a biological function and an intention. Like it is trying to serve the well-being of the organism. That we have developed them evolutionarily, and so they are not good or bad. They are all trying to benefit us. And so each of those functions are then they motivate behaviors to try and carry out those functions. So we're going to choose some emotions, and then we're going to look at those pieces of them.
Okay.
So there are 8 primary emotions. This is based on Dr. Plutchik's theory of emotion. He was a biologist, and he recognized that all living things have some sort of an emotional profile. And humans, we have 8 primary emotions. So there is sadness and joy. There's anger and fear. There is trust and disgust. And then there's anticipation and surprise. So I'll give you the quick little lowdown on these. They kind of function in 4 pairs. Sadness and joy both deal with possession of things that we value, and whether we are losing possession of something we value or gaining possession. Anger and fear deal with threats, and they take different approaches. Anger tries to confront the threats, attack them, make yourself big and loud, while fear avoids threats by hiding from them, numbing from them, making yourself small and quiet. Then there's trust and disgust. And these deal with the values of someone or something in proximity to you that are either aligned to your values or misaligned to your values. And so if the values of something are aligned, it motivates behaviors like accepting it in, embracing it, while disgust motivates behaviors to literally reject and push away this thing that you internalize as bad for you because the values are misaligned. And it can be quite literal, like vomiting, like literally like a substance that you've eaten that your body goes, oh, get this out. Its values are misaligned. And then there's anticipation and surprise, which both deal with new territory or change that we sense is coming and will impact us. And anticipation is new territory that is coming. And surprise is new territory that wasn't anticipated and has now happened. Okay. So there's our 8 emotions. Okay. And each of those can exist in varying levels of intensity. So you can see with fear, there's terrified at the most intense level, alarmed, stressed, apprehensive, timid. And so all of the emotions can exist at different levels of intensity. And these cards, at any point, just let me know. There's a simple side to every card, and then there's a context side, which goes in deeper. So the emotions, for example, we have these levels, and if we flip it, each emotion, you can see the emotion combos. And this is how these 8 emotions combine to form secondary emotions. So fear, for example, when you combine it with something like trust, is submission. And that is placing your trust in somebody, but there's still an element of fear. And so anyway, those are fun to look at. But let's get back to your situation. And I know it's been 3 years, and so it's always interesting how maybe it could be where you are right now, or maybe you're trying to revisit how you felt initially. What feels more natural?
Well, it's November. That's my dad's birthday month.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I always find that his death month, his birthday month, and then Father's Day are always when I feel, or when my body is like trying to tell me something. Like I just feel more like melancholy or just more emotional in general. So I don't know if I'm like revisiting per se, but I think it's just it's like a reminiscent or an anniversary of an important date in his life, right? And so it always makes me think of him more often than I would like during the other months of the year.
Yeah. November is when my mom died. And so November 22nd is always like a day that I feel coming for a while.
Yeah. Yeah, November 29th is my dad's birthday. Okay. He died in March. And so, yeah, this month is always like, I know, I just always tend to feel it more, or I just think about him more. So, yeah. What was the initial question?
We could, what feels more natural to try and identify the emotions that you feel right now, or to go back?
I just gravitate obviously towards sadness because I feel like that's just, you made a great video on sadness that I was like, oh my God, like it just spoke to me where you were just identifying why sadness was so valuable.
That's my favorite.
I know. So I would love to talk about that.
Sure.
Yeah. Especially that video that you made. I related it to like my dad and thought about him as you were talking in the video, and I was like, oh wow, like that's so true. Like I haven't really thought about it in a lot of those ways. So that would be really cool to talk about that.
Totally. Well, there's one emotion. So what else?
How many do I choose?
3.
Oh, three. Okay. Probably anticipation and fear. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. Okay. Anticipation and fear. And so tell me a little bit about those two. Are those two emotions that you feel right now, or just thinking about your dad?
I think when I think about the time initially when like his diagnosis, taking care of him, what I was feeling in the moment, because I think about anticipation and just that the unknown and the what are those? This is vigilant, focused, overthinking, considering, curious. Yeah, a lot of those, and also those were a lot of his emotions too. It was me trying to take on that for him, because despite him being like such like a larger than life figure for me, when he was diagnosed, like I was one of the first people he told. And I took him to his appointment where he was then diagnosed. And then I picked him up from his appointment because it was like he had to be sedated. And then I picked him up, and then that's when he told me, he's like, I'm pretty sure that I have cancer and it's like late stage. And he just became like this, like a child, right, in that moment. And I'm trying to comfort him. I'm trying to be the adult. I'm trying to be like, you're going to be fine. Like, it's okay. We're going to take care of it. And then fear goes along with that too. And so these are all things that like I knew that I felt in the moment, but I've never, until now, when you lay it out in front of me, I'm like, oh yeah, I was feeling all those things. Mm-hmm. I just don't know if I've ever really named them.
Yeah.
Specifically.
Okay. Well, I think this will be interesting because we have some emotions that maybe you still feel and maybe some that were in the moment.
Yeah.
And we can definitely look at all of them. But if you were to order them by intensity, do you think you would do, what would you do first, second, third?
Intensity. I guess I would say sadness first.
Okay.
Then anticipation, then fear.
Okay. So this order is good?
Yeah.
All right. Let's do it. So, as I was mentioning kind of at the start, what can be just a large general feeling of discomfort, and it's difficult to process. It's not too dissimilar from like swallowing a giant unchewed piece of food. Mm-hmm. It's just harder to digest. And so behind each of these emotions, there is a separate story, and there are different things to honor. And so by breaking it into more digestible layers, it makes what was a general feeling of discomfort a lot easier to process. So let's get into the first row, which is sadness. I'll lay out these cards. So you'll see with these 5 cards laid out like this, it kind of forms a container. And there's a little door, and you follow this path. Cool. And it kind of represents entering the emotional experience of sadness through the trigger or the stimulus. And you move through kind of the beats of the emotional experience until you go out the door, which is how you're responding in your behavior. So it's helpful to identify kind of what those beats are for each emotion. And they are represented in just kind of a main question. I didn't give you your gems.
I need a gem.
Yes, you do. So these 3, I'll leave these to you. And anytime we're on a card or a question that you like or that makes you think something maybe you hadn't thought of, go ahead and just put the gem onto the card.
Okay.
Yeah.
So something I haven't thought of, put the gem on the card?
Yeah, just any question you like.
Okay.
Just throw it down and be like, oh yeah, I liked that card.
Okay.
Okay, so we're going to start with sadness. So let's just identify what was lost.
What was lost? Well, obviously physically, my dad. My relationship with my dad. Any newly formed memories of my dad. His memories of me or anybody else that I loved were also lost, right, when he died. Kind of, how do I explain it? Having a father, like a father.
Right.
Right.
Almost like future.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. A life together.
A life, yeah. Future.
A grandfather.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, any newly formed memories or any new experiences involving him specifically. yeah, my kids losing out on the relationship with their grandfather and all that goes along with that. So
I gotta say, I've processed a similar thing using the cards, and something you said that was really beautiful that I've literally never thought of was losing his memories of you. That's really sweet. And I've never really thought about it from that perspective. But that's...
And I think I say that because obviously you didn't know my dad. I know my dad. He was the smartest person I've ever known. I'm biased, but he truly was. Like if you knew him, you would say the same thing. He was extremely well-read, just brilliant in many ways. And so when I think about him and his loss, it's not, so yes, it's the memories too, but also just so much knowledge that was in that brain of his. Like anytime I spoke to him, like he could go off on a tangent about any random topic. He loved religion. He loved philosophy. He loved, so many things. He was a lawyer. He just was so good at logic and rationale and loved history. And so it was always fascinating to speak to him. And the thought of that not being here, just all of that information and all of that knowledge and again, like memories of me, of any of my siblings. He was very into photography, videography. He cataloged and scanned tons of photos of our upbringings. Like he was the one to take them, film photos, and to this day I have access to, an online website of just our family has access to of all these pictures that he scanned over the years that he took, and he has all of those memories and that information, the specific events that were unique to him. And that's no longer here, and I can't ask him about that, and that bums me out big time.
Definitely. Sounds very organized.
He was very organized, but also like so not organized in so many
Really?
ways. I mean, like in terms of like domestically speaking, right? My mom took care of all of that,
but like the forethought to scan him.
Yes, he did.
That's cool.
He was very into that. It was very interesting.
That's awesome. Okay, so great answer there. There's a lot of layers to it, right?
So
it's
many.
not just, hey, I lost my dad. It's like I lost so many different perspectives of my dad. How was it lost?
How was it lost? I mean, my go-to answer is like, well, he died. I mean,
Yeah, cancer.
He had a stroke. He's literally dead. He's not here.
Which is a sufficient answer.
Yeah. And yeah, that was his brain. He was the one to store that information in his brain. So it's no longer functioning. So yeah.
Okay. So this one, describe why it was valuable to you.
Why is it valuable to me? I think I have to think. Why was it valuable to me? Obviously, as humans, I think there's a tendency to think that we are the center of the universe, not just as a species, but as like individuals. And when you lose someone that, like I said before, has a unique perspective about you individually, they can affirm your value as a person and as a human, and you lose that, it feels catastrophic, like to your worth, like, and it's because your circles are only so big as a person, as a human, and you're always looking at the world through your own eyes. And my dad and I had a very interesting relationship. But I also feel like we connected on a lot of levels that maybe some of my other siblings didn't. We have very similar senses of humor. He was very dark, cynical, inappropriate, sarcastic. I'm very much the same way.
Mm-hmm.
And so I tolerated him in a way that many people could not tolerate him, including some of my siblings, my mother. And it was just always, it was funny. It was just funny being around him. He was funny. He was smart, and he was an enigma. That's what I like to tell people. But every time he visited or I was with him, he just brought this sense of like nostalgia, and he would make the same jokes over and over again. And he would the running joke between the two of us was that I hated his like scruff on his face, right? And he would like come and he would just kiss me on the cheek, and he'd like rub his like scruff all over my cheek, and I'm like sting and burn. So he did that well into my adulthood, like every time he visited, and he would make the same jokes to me. And I think that, I don't know, you create this identity in people, right? Not just within yourself, but like within your parents, especially your caregivers, who basically like build your identity, and then you lose half of that. It's like you lose half of your identity.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, that feels like why it's so valuable, because identity is so crucial to like your existence. So I don't know if that answers the question.
I mean, this is a huge one.
Mm-hmm.
So that definitely does. I think maybe one that I add in there, at least for me, it was when there's a person who like holds so many memories of you, and you hold memories of them, and then they're gone, it makes you feel less tethered to life.
Mm-hmm.
Almost like, whoa, I'm less real.
Yes.
Because this, anchor to my life is no longer here.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Death is, especially when you see someone dying, and I was there when he died. It is surreal. It is very, I mean, regardless if you're religious or not religious, you believe in God or you don't believe in God, it is such a profound and deeply moving, unsettling experience to just watch someone take their last breath.
Mm-hmm.
And to not really know what's happening after that, despite your beliefs at the time,
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's move on to the last one, which is, how are you inclined to express your sadness?
I put a gem right there.
There you go.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry. What was the last question?
How are you inclined to express your sadness?
How am I inclined?
Mm-hmm. Kind of like when you think about these things, or hear you just beautifully described all the ways that he was valuable to you, his presence, his memory, all those things. How are you inclined to express your sadness about that? Is it just to reminisce? Is it to cry? Is it to deflect with humor? Is it?
That is exactly, yes. I was like, yes, deflect with humor.
Mm-hmm.
Because he deflected with humor.
Mm.
Absolutely. I think how I initially processed it, it was, like I said earlier, when we first started this, I cried for 2 days and then just dove headfirst into planning everything. His memorial service, his celebration of life, his cremation. I planned everything. I designed his headstone. I literally did everything to keep busy so that I wouldn't have to feel how uncomfortable I was or how sad I was. And so now, yeah, it's very 99% of the time just making jokes, because I think, Dad would think this was funny.
Mm-hmm.
If I joked this way, Dad would think this was so funny.
Right.
And truthfully, he would, but also I'm not my dad. And it's okay to like not always try to process things in the way he would. So I don't know. I feel maybe more melancholy or sad around the anniversaries, like like Father's Day, his death day, and his birthday.
So it's interesting hearing you say you cried for 2 days and then start doing the planning. And you were mentioning earlier the observation about men versus women processing it different. Because when I hear going and crying for 2 days, like I don't understand that. Because just personally, when things like that happen, it's just shell shock for me. Yeah. And it's almost like the shell shock doesn't wear off for at least a couple days. And then it washes back over me. But during that shell shock, it's just like, I don't know. It's like I haven't returned to planet Earth to process and feel the emotions.
And maybe for me, it was because I was also the one taking care of him leading up to his death.
Yeah.
I was there. I dropped him off the night before. He was having like a procedure to clear up blood clots, and then he had a stroke overnight, right? I was the one to drop him off. I said goodbye. I took a picture. I have that picture on my phone. I said, "Okay, Dad, I love you." Took a picture. He had a little smile on his face. I said, "I'll be back in the morning." And then he had a stroke overnight. And so I think because I was there from like the lead up, I was there from the diagnosis to the lead up to taking care of him. I took him to when he had emergency surgery to like remove his tumor. I think it was there because for all the steps, the whole process, maybe I had more time.
Yeah.
Like the anticipation, right? Of like, okay, something is happening. I don't know what yet, but like I'm there along the way, and maybe it just allowed me more room to process this before some of my other siblings who came in later, not faulting them for anything, but who maybe were more shell shocked, like you said, like, and it took them a while to process that later.
Yeah.
So maybe that's why, I'm not sure.
Yeah. And then those 2 days though, does that sadness just look like sobbing in a pillow or?
Yeah. Just like sobbing openly, weeping, crying, just constantly. Would go home and cry. I don't know. It's kind of interesting. I was married at the time, and my ex-husband was super supportive and like did everything he could to support me. But it was interesting that like towards the second day or maybe the third day, I don't know, when I was like starting to dive more into like doing, he was like, "You're handling this so well," because I wasn't crying very much. I was just like getting shit done. And I think back, I'm like, was I? Was I actually handling that very well? I don't know. I guess that's subjective. But yeah, it was so much. It was so much crying, just constant weeping.
Okay. All right. So we're gonna jump to the anticipation. And when you chose this emotion, were you kind of picturing after his diagnosis, or where were you picturing this anticipation?
Yeah, probably
the most?
after his diagnosis.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So let's go there really quick. So anticipation is sensing new territory, which I can't think of a better example. So we know what the new territory was. It was this diagnosis, but what else was it that you understood was the incoming impact?
The uncertainty. It wasn't that I it's just the what ifs. Yeah, just not knowing. And because it's your parent, it's just interesting being in the position of the child, being like, oh, I don't know how to handle this. You're supposed to know how to handle this, right? So I don't know that. Yeah, maybe also reversal of roles in a way, and also not knowing how to handle that.
Yeah. Okay. And well, when is it coming? But at that moment, the uncertainty, you don't really know when it's coming.
Mm-hmm.
But did you have kind of a time frame, a certain amount of months or something like that?
I don't know if they gave us a specific number of months. I just think they said chemo will take this long. It's stage 4. It's so hard to know, especially the type of cancer he had, which was colon cancer. It's not like some people survive it, and some people die very quickly from it, depending on their so many factors. But so it wasn't like we didn't know. We just didn't know.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, I mean, that in itself is an
Yeah.
answer that contributes to the emotion, which is anticipation.
Mm-hmm.
So this next one, when we feel heightened anticipation or surprise, it's that whatever it is we're perceiving, we understand it's going to have an impact on us.
Mm-hmm.
And the bigger the impact, the more intense the emotion. And so describe that impact that you could see coming. Could you understand the implications and the impact of what was coming at the time, or were you kind of staying tight to like, it'll be okay, it'll be okay?
I definitely did a lot of it'll be okay, because my dad was so fearful in the moment, and of which I was so not used to, because he was so not a fearful man. He was so not a scared man. He was so incredibly intimidating to just basically everybody in his life. So to be driving him in a car and driving him to like surgery, and he's like sobbing, being like, I'm gonna die, and I'm having to comfort him. I was like, this is not the dynamic that I'm used to. I have no idea how to handle this. So I don't know. It was like, so I don't know if I was thinking about like the impact necessarily, but it was just more like, how do I navigate this this new relationship? I don't know how to like. I think I was just thinking more in the moment of like, how am I supposed to treat this man? Kind of overbearing, like a intimidating, threatening presence almost, to like he's now like my child. So.
Well, yeah, and not just that. It's also that you're needing to comfort him on like an existential level, which is not nearly impossible.
And that was also so hard because I had left my faith, my Mormon faith, just a few years prior.
Mm-hmm.
I also didn't know where he was at in that moment in regards to his own faith,
Mm-hmm.
and in regards to Mormonism, because he held that so close to his chest, like how he felt just internally. He was very much into debating publicly, but like as far as like his personal feelings about it, very few people knew like how he really felt. So it's not like I could comfort him in that way, because I was like, I don't know what I believe. I don't know what happens. Like I can't tell you. So yeah, that also went along with that too, which was like, I have no idea what to say to you. I don't know what it was. Yeah, it was rough.
Right.
It was rough.
Okay. And the last one, how were you inclined to prepare for this impact and what you were anticipating?
I was not inclined.
Let the family know. Just
Yeah.
Just try and be present for him.
Yeah. As I'm the 4th oldest of 11 kids, and as that, like, in that birth order, I think you tend to be kind of like a mediator between like older, younger siblings, especially in large families. I think there's like 2 or 3 siblings that tend to be the ones to like communicate between amongst everybody. And I was definitely one of those people.
The glue.
The glue. Exactly. That was definitely a large part of the glue. And so it was definitely me communicating, group chats, phone calls. And that's not to say that like none of my siblings were doing any of this. This is, just speaking from my own experience, because definitely other siblings were involved in helping. But, and yes, being present for my dad, because like I said earlier, I lived closest to him. Mm-hmm. I also didn't have, I had like a part-time job, but like my kids were in school most of the time. So I had also more discretionary time than other people did to go and visit him, take care of him. So, and I would go and I'd sit with him. He really wanted to talk a lot, like more than I was used to, just about things that were important to him and he was passionate about. So I would go and sit with him. I would like recorded him a couple times, talking about philosophy, something about history. And I could tell that was important, not because I was really involved in the conversation. It's just that like, it's almost like he wanted to like, I have so much information in my brain. It might not last much longer. So I need to get this out. And I think it was valuable to him that someone was there to listen.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. That's an interesting one. The anticipation really is like laden with so many things. Especially as the glue, anticipation is a very different emotion for the people who have to plan the funerals and have to be the glue. Okay. So moving on to fear, which is registering something as a threat. And I think kind of what the subconscious distinguishing pieces on whether we feel fear or anger is if we perceive ourselves as having the ability to address the threat. Mm-hmm. If we have the ability to fix the problem, to address the threat, I think we're much more likely to feel anger. But if we don't perceive ourselves as able to address it, we are more likely to feel fear. Mm. So let's take a look at fear. And when you chose this emotion, was it kind of in the past at the time of anticipation? Mm-hmm. Okay, so not so much anymore currently.
Yeah.
Okay. So what is the source of the threat? If a threat is what triggers fear, was the threat the diagnosis, or was it your dad's reaction to the diagnosis? What was triggering the fear in that moment?
Maybe both.
I could see how both would be. Obviously, the diagnosis, that's pretty straightforward. That's a giant threat. But it would be a little bit terrifying. Because... I don't want to distract from your story, but a similar thing was my mom, 2 days before she died, going in for a surgery. And right as she was about to go under, she said, "I'm scared." Oh. And that's like one of the worst things to hear because...
especially from a parent.
Yeah, because you rarely hear that from a parent. Is part of it, but also it's just there's obviously the threat of their health, but then there's the threat of their headspace as they meet the end. And you don't want it to be one where they are terrified and sad and all the things. Like you want them to feel comforted and loved, and so I totally understand how that is almost a whole separate threat. To see that kind of a reaction that you've never seen, and it's just horrifying, the thought of them being in a headspace that's not pleasant.
God damn it, Dash. You bring this up. And you're like, "Are you a crier?" And I'm like, "No." And you're like, "Oh, so you don't need tissues." Because you bring this up. And I joke that I literally drove my dad to his death because I did. Because I literally drove him to the hospital. But I will never forget that drive because my mom had called and she said, you need to take your dad to the hospital. He has, the doctor said he has all these blood clots and he needs to get them cleared up right away. So you need to take him right now. You need to go to his apartment. You need to take him to the hospital. And I'm like, okay. So I pick him up and he had no idea. Like, if he was supposed to go to the hospital. Like, he was like ignoring, as he was wont to do, like ignoring phone calls. Like, he would just escape. Like, he would just ignore. And so I knock on his apartment. I'm like, Dad, we gotta go to the hospital. He's like, what? And I'm like, you got blood clots? He's like, I'm not going back there. He just a few months prior, he had surgery at the same hospital, removed the tumor from his colon. And my dad hated doctors. He was notorious for hating doctors, avoiding doctors. So to like get him to a doctor was just like pulling teeth. And so I got him in the car and I'm driving him. And he is like sobbing that he does not want to die. He's like, Carly, I don't want to die. I don't want to die. If I go back there, I'm going to die. And I'm saying, Dad, it's okay. I'm saying, Dad, it's okay. You're going to be fine. You'll be okay. You'll be okay. And he was right. And I hate that he was so scared, like you said, at the end. God, it was just really, it was such a contrast to how he was in his day-to-day life. Like, he was this incredibly intimidating lawyer who was just like a bulldog in the courtroom. People were so scared of him. He was so intimidating. To just see him in that state was just a wild experience for me. To see him so scared and in me in the moment being like, you're gonna be fine, you're gonna be fine. And then just, he was right. He was going to die. And I felt like he just knew on like a level that I couldn't have possibly known. So yeah, like I get what you're saying about your own mother.
Mm-hmm. And I don't know about you, but like that's the part that haunts me more than anything.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Well, that was a big card.
That was, oh yeah.
I mean, we were touching on this a little bit. So we kind of have two pieces we identified as far as kind of like the threats and what's triggering the fear. So describe what it's threatening. Obviously, it's his health.
Mm-hmm.
But then in this part that we're talking about, it's his final moments.
Mm-hmm.
It's his relationship with how it was ending.
Mm-hmm.
And that's tough. I think there are very few people who can remain composed as they, kind of intuitively are understanding what's coming.
Mm-hmm.
And, with my mom, when she said, I'm scared, it very much was, she knew, which is the worst part about it,
The worst.
Mm-hmm. And I can still hear her say it.
Yes.
And she said it in a way that almost just confirmed it.
It's crazy, right?
Mm-hmm. And so there's a moment of fear. It was in the car.
Yeah.
That you were feeling it pretty intensely.
Yeah, I'll never forget it. On 5600 East, driving to the hospital close by here.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And yeah, he's just sobbing in the passenger seat. I don't want to die. Don't take me back there. I don't want to die. I'm like, you're not going to die, Dad. You'll be fine.
But simultaneously, you were kind of like alarmed.
Oh, yeah, I was very alarmed.
Mm-hmm.
Very alarmed. I'm like, how do I...
You're like, do I turn the car around?
Like, what am I supposed to do? I'm like, I have this, like... I'm on a mission, right? Like, I have to do what I was told to do. Like, I have to, like, abide by the doctor's orders. And then I have my dad who's, like, feeling something existentially in this moment. Who am I supposed to listen to in that moment?
Right.
You know?
Mm-hmm. Underneath registering something as a threat, feeling anger or fear, there's some vulnerability that lies underneath that. Because if we weren't vulnerable, we wouldn't feel the emotions as intensely. And so thinking about why you feel vulnerable to that part, was it because you had never seen your dad express emotions that intense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Was he usually like a very composed?
Besides anger.
Okay.
Yes. Oh, God, it's so similar to me. Not that I'm an angry person. I don't tend to be angry, but we shared so many similarities as far as our expressing emotions. Generally speaking, pretty like steady, okay? But very dry and, like I said, deflect with a lot of humor. But no, I rarely saw him cry. I rarely saw him like open up about things that were deeply important to him. Like, for example, like his parents, his dad died when he was like 5. His mom died when he was in his 50s. He didn't go to he didn't go see her. Like when she was dying, she died of a brain tumor. He just very much avoided anything that affected him emotionally in that way. So to see him in a state that vulnerable, I had no idea how to handle it. It was just so strange. It was just not our dynamic at all. You know?
And in the moment, since that's when you were feeling this fear, how were you inclined to avoid it? You're going to be fine. You're going to be fine. It's definitely like one way.
Yeah. Yeah, you're going to be fine. You're going to be fine. Like, don't, and I still do this in a lot of ways with other people, but it's like, don't like catastrophize. Like, you don't know. You have no idea what the future holds. Like, so like, just take it one day at a time, like 1 minute at a time. Like, just do what the doctor says. Like, just take it, go with the flow. Like, just everything's gonna be fine. You're gonna be okay. Like, try to be optimistic, right? Mm-hmm. I think a lot of people do that. Just trying to remain hopeful, right?
Yeah. Okay. So that was really nice. Very, very different things from each of those emotions. Kind of summarizing each of those rows, the sadness, you were kind of describing a more present feeling, right? Mm-hmm. Which is just the general relationship with the loss and the many layers that are involved in that. Mm-hmm. Oh, there's a line in Diary of Adam and Eve, which is a play written by Mark Twain. When the main character loses a child, has this quote that's really beautiful that says, when you lose someone close to you, it's like your house burns down. You don't realize how much you lost until you start going through the ashes, which is brutal. Yeah. But this is part of the reason that I love sadness, is because it does such a good job of taking an inventory of all the things that you loved and that you valued. and it's bringing you back to those emotional moments, that closeness and connection. With my own mom personally, sadness is how I feel close to her again. It's like how I put her back in the room with me, because like that's what the emotion does.
Yes.
And it's so good at it.
Yes, absolutely. There's that show. Well, what is it called? It's with it's like a therapy show on Apple TV or something.
Couples therapy?
Shrinking. Yes, Shrinking. And there was like a quote in there was like, girl's mother died and her dad's a therapist, and he was like, just take like 10 minutes a day to like feel the sadness and to like feel her. And that resonated so deeply with me, because it was like, yes, when I, for example, my dad loves Pink Floyd, Led Zeppelin, and at his funeral we played Kashmir by Led Zeppelin when we laid the flowers on his grave.
Mm-hmm.
And so every time I hear that song, or every time I hear Pink Floyd, sometimes I want to turn the station, like, because mostly it's like organic. It's just like I hear it out in the wild or whatever. Sometimes I want to like change the station, but I'm like, no. Like, I'm going to feel this in this moment. Like, I'm going to just feel him here. And that's like, yes, I'm sad, but it's also like, oh, I'm thinking about him and I feel close to him.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think when you realize that sadness and joy very much become two sides of the same coin. And if joy is gaining possession of something you value and sadness is losing possession, then the ultimate sadness would be to become so distant from those feelings of why you loved somebody, so distant from the memories that you forget. Yeah. I mean, that's like the final form of that loss. But if you can keep remembering, and if you're not afraid to feel the discomfort of sadness, well, then it will stay so recent. And for me, like when I reminisce, I feel joy because I'm regaining the memory and the feelings about the specific things that I loved, and it just brings it all right back to the surface. And to me, it's like the same as joy. Yeah.
Yeah.
But your line on anticipation is interesting. Just I know you as like a very competent, smart person, and so it's not a surprise that you have this line of just planning, implications, logistics, the glue. That makes total sense. And then the fear, though, that's a whole other piece of it. Yeah. That's much more unique to your dad and the circumstances around you being the person driving. Yeah. Anyway, so it's really interesting. We can move on to the next section.
Yeah.
If that's all right. Good work. So I'm going to give you your 3 jumps back.
Okay.
Okay, so moving on to management. Management is the ability to regulate thoughts, feelings, and actions. It takes the blueprint of our awareness and challenges that initial experience. It's our ability to think critically and guide our responses in more productive directions. So for this section, separate yourself now from the feelings. We're going to bring things into perspective, and let's concentrate on results. All right. The 3 pillars of management are composure, accountability, and innovation. And that's what we're going to go through before we move to the last card, which is how we respond to the situation that we chose to process. So the first pillar, composure, we've got just 2 exercises. The first is context and coping. I think it's really important when we're trying to regulate to first put things into perspective. Now, with what you've chosen to process, I think there's a lot less to regulate than if we were working on something else. If the situation at hand was like, oh, I'm in a fight with my partner or whatever, there would be a whole different slew of things to regulate. But when it's something like what you've chosen, there's no pressure. Like you regulate as is needed. There is no need to put yourself through the ringer of accountability, for example. Like I try and make it so clear that it's like, Challenges as needed.
As needed.
Like, please do not try and hold yourself accountable if you are
Did
just...
I actually drive my dad to his death?
Why did you do that?
Do I need to be held legally responsible for that?
Yeah, exactly. Okay, but context kind of helps sometimes to put the situation in perspective. So the first question is the root of the problem in your control? Mm-hmm. So it's no. Mm-hmm. If yes, we could focus on how to improve it. But if no, it's important to remember that you can't change it, but you can change your relationship with the situation. Mm-hmm. Some people will bang their head against the wall trying to change situations that they have no control over. So it's important to be cognizant of that. Second question, what's the most important thing in this situation? Like 6 months from now, looking back, what would be a priority that you could have in your family or in how you think about this that you'd be happy to have adopted? You're a good crier. You could do it more often.
Yeah. Honestly, this is very beneficial for me as someone who does not really feel or know how to identify their emotions.
Don't say feel. As someone who doesn't feel.
As someone who doesn't know how to label or process in this way.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I really wanted to do this because I was like, oh my God, this is so for me. I really need this. Mm-hmm. Which could only just benefit everyone else in my life if I am more in tune with my own emotions, right?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Why?
All right. And the next piece is just taking a second look at our coping strategies. Mm-hmm. When facing an amount of stress or a type of stress that we aren't able to manage, we all resort to our coping mechanisms, which are a form of compromise. Coping buys us momentary comfort at a cost. Distressed feelings can be soothed or numbed. Uncomfortable thoughts can be bargained with or indulged. Our strategy for coping mechanisms is picked for us automatically until we choose to consciously intervene. So, what is an example of an unhealthy coping mechanism that you've used in the past?
Unhealthy in the past?
This doesn't have to relate to the situation.
I don't know. Unhealthy is so subjective.
Totally.
Mm-hmm. God, now I would say praying, going to church, compulsory, bargaining with God that I now don't think exists, right? Mm-hmm. But at the time, I wouldn't say that wasn't healthy, right?
Right. Well, yeah, I don't think it's rare when we are consciously choosing to engage in unhealthy coping mechanisms.
Right, exactly. So I'm like,
I feel like a very small one is the thought-ending cliches.
Yeah.
You'll be fine, or at least with when my mom passed, I had too many friends who reached out and they're like, it's okay, you're going to see your mom in heaven.
She's in a better place.
Yeah.
Spiritual bypass.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. Spiritual bypassing is a perfect example of an unhealthy coping mechanism. So. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it's unfair to call it unhealthy because to some extent, we all have to engage in coping mechanisms with this meaningless universe, Yep,
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So who's to say is
right.
Who gets to define what's healthy and what's not
exactly. I think nihilism is when you kind of lean into that a little too hard, when you're just it's all a coping mechanism.
It's all made up.
It's all meaningless. But the thought-ending cliches were a little bit frustrating because I wanted to feel sad and heartbroken and all the things. And so when it's the first thing that people said was you'll see her again. It was
takes that away from you.
Yeah, you're right. It's a little bit frustrating. And I'm not mad at people. I get it. Mm-hmm. People don't know what to say and they get uncomfortable.
Yeah. And it's not really for you, it's for them. Mm-hmm. When they say stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's not to comfort you, it's to comfort themselves.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Which was a weird thing to realize when you have a parent that's died and then you're like, I'm having to take care of people in these conversations.
Girl, what?
Yeah.
I'm the one who's suffering here. Don't make me soothe you, okay?
Exactly.
I guess like what, I guess it would. I just think in terms of like harm reduction, whatever. Like what's causing the most harm? So it's like, I mean, I was never like wanted to like do drugs or like drink or something growing up to cope with anything, right? Because I never did that and never really coped in a way that was destructive to other people, maybe to myself in some ways, but. Honestly, just so much deflecting with humor. Right? I don't know if that's necessarily harmful or unhealthy, but probably for myself, personally speaking, it really just delayed a lot of processing.
I mean, I agree, but I will say I like the connection that you made that like your dad also deflected the humor. And so when you're doing it, it's almost like...
It's like I'm connecting with him.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Which I kind of like.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So the next exercise is stress inventory. This is just taking a look at some of the possible stressors in your life that are unrelated to the situation that might be contributing to it. In this particular case, I don't think that's going to be a big factor in what you're feeling, but we'll go through it anyway. I'm going to ask some questions, starting with some environment questions. Your environment. My workload at school, work, or home feels predominantly overwhelming or in control.
In control.
Okay. Wow. Kudos. The fact that you say that when I know what your schedule is crazy. Okay, the cleanliness of my home or bedroom brings me feelings of distress or comfort.
Comfort.
Nice.
Not a very messy person.
Love that. The media that I watch, listen to, and read makes me feel upset or inspired.
Considering the book I just read and finished.
Oh yeah.
I'm mostly inspired. I don't know. It's like the politics these days, man. I guess I'm upset, honestly. Maybe upset. Probably upset.
Okay. Okay, a couple questions about your actions. My efforts to reach out and show up for those that I care about were static or proactive?
Static.
Static, okay. The promises I made to myself and others were mostly neglected or kept?
Kept.
Okay. This is just like a general, like in the last couple of weeks or days. By my own measure of productivity, I have been complacent or productive.
Productive.
I could basically answer some of these for you.
Complacent, God.
So health. My overall health and pain levels have been draining or comfortable.
Comfortable.
Okay. My sleep schedule has been mostly erratic or consistent.
Consistent.
Okay. My diet, water intake, and exercise have been indulgent or healthy.
Healthy.
Hitting the gym.
The gym.
Okay, and some social questions. My support system and those I can lean on have felt distant or close by.
Distant.
All right, I'll tag them in the comments.
We're coming for you.
The outlooks of those around me have seemed mostly gloomy or uplifting.
Oh, God, gloomy.
Attitudes towards who I am and where I am in my life have seemed judgmental or accepting.
Accepting.
Okay. All right. So that's our little inventory. Gives us kind of a nice look at some of the areas that might be contributing to stress that, if unchecked, could bleed into the situations we try to process. You know, we don't want to project these stresses unfairly onto situations that aren't related. So that's what this exercise is all about.
That's great.
You can kind of look and go, oh,
Yeah.
okay, cool. And then you work on it.
That's cool.
So I'll leave those there.
Thank you.
You have your gems, right?
Yes.
Okay, lovely. Moving into accountability. This will, I don't even know. There are a few different ones, but I think we'll probably skip all of them,
Okay.
considering the situation.
Okay.
But because I think your situation is a perfect example of why I built in a mechanic saying only do it if needed, otherwise don't do any of it. So proceed through any or all of the following challenges only as is relevant or needed in your situation. There are 5 challenges. There's cognitive distortions, which is looking at just common thinking errors. You can think about ones that are interesting, ones that you might be guilty of. There's conscience and trust, which is looking at core values. There's radical acceptance, which is a pretty complex exercise that's good for people who are struggling to accept what is and who are resisting. There's thoughts and actions. It's a challenge to interrupt unhelpful thoughts and unhelpful actions. And then there's a communications exercise to check in on your communication or someone else's communication. Do any of those interest you or feel relevant to the situation? And it's totally fine if the answer is no.
No.
Okay. I don't think so either. All right. Innovation. We have 2 exercises for this one. So innovation is how we come up with silver linings and more productive ways to move forward. And so our first exercise is reverse engineer, which is essentially looking at just the mere presence of certain emotions. There are so many good insights that we can get from that if we just understand what it means. So you can choose one of these. We can reverse engineer sadness or joy to generate a gratitude game plan, reverse engineer surprise or anticipation to reinforce your resilience, anger or fear to strengthen your sense of security, or trust or disgust to scrutinize your susceptibilities. Do any of those sound interesting? We can choose one of those. Appreciate the alliteration.
I love alliteration
Me too.
so much.
I do too.
Generate a gratitude game plan.
Yeah? Okay. That's a good one since we're looking at sadness and joy. So with this one, I'll just ask you a couple questions. So the presence, do you want to kind of focus on sadness? Okay, so sadness. So the presence of sadness means that there is something that we deeply value, that we've attributed value to. And the intensity level of that sadness shows us how much value we attributed to it. If we're super upset, well, then clearly there is more value that we have attributed to that thing than we might fully understand. So let's think about the something, which could be any one of the many layers we identified in awareness, which could be the future, the father, the grandfather, the memories, any of those things. And then the value that you attributed to that. Let's start by choosing and talking about your 3 favorite things about your dad.
His intelligence, his sense of humor, and his generosity.
Intelligence, book smart guy, street smart guy.
Both.
Oh, a lawyer.
Yes.
You said he was really good in the courtroom.
Just a voracious reader. Read everything he could get his hands on. He had an entire library of books that I went through after his death. Just being like, holy shit, he read all of these. And not just, they weren't fluff books. They were very in-depth, personal journals of, past like presidents, religious leaders, biographies, autobiographies. Just very, very smart. Just such like just incredibly logical, rational thinker. And it's not like I was the only one who thought that. Like everybody in his life that knew him just knew him to be very, very smart. Sense of humor.
Dark humor.
Very dark. So inappropriate. Very cynical. Which not everybody appreciates. I know that for sure from experience.
Even when he was LDS, he had like a dark
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely. Like to the point where some members of his ward when he was a bishop, like just couldn't stand him because they just could not relate to him on that level. Just thought you either get that kind of humor or you don't. And some people cannot understand it. They just think, oh, you're just rude. You're just mean. But that was my dad. But he also kind of thrived on that, where to just kind of keep people on their toes, make people unsure of how to interact with him, which is so interesting because if you didn't know him personally, and this is also something that I have experienced personally, you would get the sense that he is very intimidating and very rude, off-putting, abrasive. But then when you, even if you didn't know him personally, because after he died, people came, because he was an LDS bishop for about 5 years, when I was in my teens. And when he died, people came out of the woodwork to tell us, your dad helped us so much financially, like he saved our lives. He didn't tell anybody. Nobody knew. Like,
Whoa.
he would pay for kids' college tuitions, like not just his kids, like other people's kids in other families. He'd pay for people's grocery bills. Like, this is not out of the church's,
Whoa.
this is not on the church's dime. This is on his own dime.
Mm-hmm.
He paid for people's grocery bills. He fixed people's cars, like would pay for, to take them to car mechanics, to pay for their books, their medical bills, like just so many things. They would come to him, say, can you help us? And he would just pay. And most of that was on his own dime.
Wow.
And like, he never told anybody. People they just told us at this after the fact, after he died, to be like, hey, your dad did this for us. Your dad did this for us. And it's just crazy because I think to a lot of people it felt very, it was like a dichotomy of him as a person, where on the surface he seemed very threatening, very, very dry, unfeeling, uncaring, but then deep down, like he cared so deeply and wanted to help in the way that he could, the way that he knew he could, which was financially.
Mm-hmm.
So, just interesting.
Yeah. Okay. So intelligence, sense of humor, and what was the third one?
Generosity.
Generosity. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Those are awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So for each of those, normally these are writing prompts, but we'll just talk about them. For each of those, reminiscing is an amazing way to feel like you have him back and that he's in the room again, telling the jokes that he told all the time, things like that. Aside from reminiscing, what is one way that you could creatively incorporate, emulate, or attract more of those three things into your life so that you could feel like he is there in a different way?
Mm.
I mean, the intelligence, you have two jobs that...
well, that's what I'm thinking, right? Like I have two jobs, and I'm in school mainly because of him.
Really?
Like, I'm doing this because like I in so many ways want to prove to him that I'm like, Dad, I can do it. Like, because I didn't graduate from college, and I know that he was so disappointed about that, because despite growing up Mormon, despite being a Mormon woman, and despite like the all the patriarchal bullshit that surrounds that, he was very much like a quote unquote feminist, where he wanted all of his daughters to graduate college, like every single one. Like he was like, you are graduating, like you guys are going to school, you're getting an education. Like academia was very important to him, and he wanted all of his kids to do well in education. So the fact that I did not graduate, I think, was so upsetting to him. And so all the time I'm like, I have got to do something where I'm like, I can fucking do it, Dad. Like I'll show you.
Mm-hmm.
Even though you're dead,
Yeah.
I'm going to show you that I'm smart and I can do it and I'm capable. So honestly, deep down, like subconsciously, a lot of what I do is like kind of in some way to like prove to him, to me, that I'm competent and that he can be proud of me in that way.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I don't know.
That's a good one.
Mm-hmm.
Sense of humor, you obviously have it yourself.
I try.
Moving on to the last exercise, which is the cognitive triangle. This is a staple in cognitive behavioral therapy, which is understanding that the relationship between our feelings, thoughts, and behaviors are all interlinked.
Mm-hmm.
And while we can't directly change our feelings, I can't just turn my sadness off or turn my anger off. We can't directly change our feelings, but we can directly change our thoughts over time with conscious effort. And we can change our behaviors that easily. And so each of these indirectly influence each other. So while we can't directly change our feelings, we can change our feelings indirectly through good thoughts and behaviors.
Mm-hmm.
So how would you like to feel?
Content.
So if that's the feeling you would like to foster more of, then what are some good thoughts that you could try and consciously remind yourself of that could inspire that feeling of peace and contentment?
Thoughts.
I mean, your dad sounds awesome.
Yeah, he was awesome.
And it sounds like he lived an incredible life. Like he did a good job placing his resources and his time and his efforts into good things.
Yeah, I mean, he wasn't perfect. It's very easy to idealize someone who
Totally.
they're gone when they're dead,
Mm-hmm.
right? But overall, yeah, he was a very, very enigmatic, intriguing, complicated, brilliant, amazing person. So, yeah, I'm thinking about things that I've learned from him, things that I've gained, just having him as a father, and my own traits that he's passed down, that I've inherited from him, that I feel like are overall good traits that people seem to like about me. And so think about that, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what are some behaviors that you think could also inspire those thoughts as well as the ideal feelings?
Behavior. Telling bad dad jokes.
That's good. There's this video I saw just recently that I have not gotten the guts up to do, but it was a guy who posted a video. It was like a selfie as he's walking on a trail, and he's doing it as though he's FaceTiming his mom who died.
Oh.
Like, hey, Mom, I'm out on the trail.
I think I saw that.
I immediately started crying.
Oh, my God.
And then reading people's comments, it was just like the most wholesome, wonderful comments. But that's definitely like a behavior that would make me feel a lot, but it would be like just a really, almost like an overwhelming sense of peace and contentment.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Well, and then we move to the last card, which is how we respond. And, if you can take the simple approach, which is just take a deep breath, you know what to do. You can also review. I feel like in this particular case, this one's the more appropriate. So that's it.
I just feel like I just did 10 years of therapy. Wow.
Well, thanks for being so open.
Oh my God. Are you kidding? This is incredible. You made me feel things, Dash.
Ah, I got you
Made
there.
me cry, and not a lot of people can do that.
Really?
Yes. Besides Heavenly Father.
Aw.
Okay.
Heavenly
Father, are you really there? And do you hear and answer every child's prayer? Some say that heaven.
To my fellow introspectors, the sole reason for putting these conversations online is in hopes that as you listen, something about the conversation reminds you to look inward, inspires you to feel deeper, or catalyzes some sort of positive personal change. So if anything stood out while you were listening, If it got you thinking about something you want to improve, explore, or practice in your life, all I ask is that you don't wait. Write down the thought, do the thing, send that text, whatever it is, because if you don't act on it now, you will forget. This moment will pass as yet another thing that you consumed rather than integrated into your life, so don't wait. But sincerely, thank you for listening to Catharsis Sessions. I write a letter for each of my guests, so if you'd like to read my letter to Carly, you can find that on our Substack page. And if you'd like to know more about Carly's work and today's session, check out the show notes below. Thanks.